Hello, friends. I'm here with Polly today, and we are ready for another segment of Seniors. Can we talk?
Can we talk?
Yeah, and we can talk. Polly and I are never, as you know, at a loss for words, but we want to welcome you back. And we always like for our friends to get comfortable and to grab a place at the table with us because we're just going to have a conversation about age. But this time, we want you to know that age is just a number. That's all it is. And sometimes we attach too much importance to that number. And I can be honest about that because my birthday is approaching. So I'm going to add another number to my years. But I have adopted sort of a new philosophy since my husband had had some health issues. And I say every day we're alive, we need to be ringing the bell. So that's sort of something I'm trying to embrace as I get older. So I don't know about you, friends, but grab your favorite beverage and join us as we talk about age is just a number.
You
So,
know, that is so true, Linda. As soon as you were talking, it reminded me of an event that took place last April. Last April, I was visiting with my daughter and attending a chamber music conference in France.
yes.
And 99%, well, 95% of the people there are over they're our age
Okay.
because they have the time and the resources to go to Europe just to play their violins and their cellos and so on and so forth. And we're having a cocktail party. And at some point, this is so funny. At some point, I said, well, I started a business and I was only 79 and now I'm 83. And somebody else said, well, I'm 85. And someone else said, well, no, I'm 89. I mean, you get to a certain point where you're
Yes.
bragging about your age because you finally get it, that it's a privilege. It really is a privilege. And we have so many resources and so many new ways of looking at the whole process of aging and what it's like to finally really live the life that you have a passion for, which is why we do this, exactly why we do this program.
Yes, exactly. So Polly and I like to talk, and so we were talking on the phone the other day, and she said, "Oh, Linda, I have a topic. I'm going to send it over to you." And I said, "Oh, great. That's wonderful." So she introduced me to a book by Dr. Kerry Burnight called Joy Span. So I'm going to let her talk about how she found out about this great book and what bearing it's going to have on our discussion today.
Well, because I'm always teaching a course, I teach a course for OASIS, which is a continuing education, uh, lifelong learning nonprofit here in St. Louis. So I'm always looking for resources and things to talk about because in addition to that, teaching that class, I have a mastermind group. And so I'm always looking for, I think, of course, with thanks to Google, once you start looking for something, it blossoms in front of you because then all the other things come up because everybody else is, marketing their particular materials. But this book I think was just published last month, and it's called Joy Span, and I liked it because it immediately it's exactly the same things that I teach in my classes or on my website. What she is saying is that typically we measure life in terms of lifespan or health span,
So
but there's more
lifespan would be the age, right?
age.
Right?
And
Okay, and
health
that's
span,
how,
of course, is all these concerns we have, and understandably about our health. These
yes.
spacesuits do need repairs as we get older. But the term joy span, and that's what makes a life well lived, joy span. And I really love that term because I really believe it is the difference maker between somebody having an interesting life that, at the end of each day, they feel like they've accomplished something, they feel good about themselves, versus somebody who every day, it's almost like the COVID syndrome, which we've talked about before. Every day is the same. They're doing the same thing, the same people. They're sort of bored. Their energy is low. They're focusing on all their problems. And it's just sad because there's so much more to life than that.
True. And we're trying to explore that as well. We are being honest that we're not there yet, and that part of the honesty that I will share is that some of these things are just hard. Because when you start a new chapter or you're in a new season of life, it's going to be a challenge. And I was thinking, Polly, that remembering back to being the new employee. Most of us have worked in our lives and have started a job, and you're the new employee that doesn't know where anything is. You do not know how to do the copy machine. You don't know even how to answer the phone, what to say, who to direct it to. But as you commit to learning that job and your environment, you start to feel more comfortable instead of that fish out of water or I don't belong here type mentality. And the same is true when we get into this space of life where we get to make our decisions, where we get to make those choices on how we'd like to live the next chapter or the next season of our lives. And I think that's sometimes where I struggle a little bit. And I think that can be true for others, that we feel like the wheels have come off the bus, that we are moving, as you say, in a direction, but maybe it's not the direction of our choice, or maybe something that we still have an interest in. And I think
Well,
you
and
said
it's
last,
not only that, it's that society has programmed us with so much misinformation, like the idea that once you retire, then you just go off you're like a cow let off into pasture, or you're going to go off to pasture and then you'll be in a rocking chair, and then you go to a retirement home, and then you go to skilled nursing.
right.
I mean, it's just like a straight downhill kind of thing. And most people are starting to realize now that that's not the way it has to be. But I think how do I say, on a subconscious level, just absorbing things from society,
Mm-hmm.
there is a tendency, and we really have to sort of wake up and take control of our lives and make decisions for how we want to live our life, instead of following the let out to pasture syndrome.
Yes, I agree. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, and using the joy span as the backdrop of our discussion. So, one thing that Dr. Burnight said is that both frameworks, lifespan and health span, revolve around finding deep purpose at the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what sustains you. And I decided that I want to be a member of her Joy Span Club. And I'm making that up. She doesn't really have a club, but just saying figuratively that I would like to be a member of the Joy Span Club, because I believe that what she is teaching us is true. And the reason why I know this is from my career. When I first came into health, a nurse educator told me a story about nuns that submitted to cognitive testing. And these nuns were advanced age and they knew what they were doing. They were asked very specifically to submit to cognitive testing to see if there was any Alzheimer's present. And because on autopsy after death, they found out that there were plaques and tangles, but on testing and in living their lives, they did not present as those that had Alzheimer's, dementia. Because why? Because they lived a life of adapting to their environment as they age. They also always were a part of a connection to other people, and they always gave. And so,
And they were always growing and studying.
yeah, all the resilience. It's sort of a resilient type of nature that they had that helped the plaques and the tangles and the physical things that they were dealing
So
with.
even though technically they would have been diagnosed as having Alzheimer's, they did not exhibit any of the symptoms
No,
because their lives were still thriving. Their lives, they were still growing, adapting, connecting, and giving.
yes. And Dr.
And that,
Bird,
those are the four things, of course, those are the four things that uh, Dr.
Bernhardt.
Burnright's book is all about. Those are the four big topics. And what we thought we would do is just sort of share with you our particular takes on these four topics. And I have to say, those are usually the four topics when I'm writing a blog or doing a Facebook post. It has to do with one of those four things because they are, I would say, they're the four pillars of aging well or a life well lived,
Absolutely. And
really at any age, but especially at our age.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's
Yeah.
why I told Polly, I said, you're really never too old to grow, never too old to adapt, and never too old to connect or give. We always have different, we all grew up in different generations, so we're going to bring that to the table with us. But yes, I agree. Let's get started on our discussion, Polly. So I think we decided that you were going to talk about grow.
Yes, I'm talking about growth. And it was very interesting that to me that she was talking about how important it is to keep a learning mindset and keep learning and gaining new information and so on and so forth. And she had a really clever idea, which I challenge anybody who's watching this to do. What she wanted us to do was to take a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil and write down things throughout your life that you've just been curious about.
Okay.
Like when I was in high school, I had a good friend. We were fascinated by Egypt ancient Egypt. And every once in a while, if I'm on social media, they'll come up a whole thing like there's a whole brand new museum in Cairo that has been dedicated to all of the treasures that have been found in the pyramids and the architecture and all of this kind of thing. And it's supposed to be just magnificent. So one thing I'm curious about is I'm sure there is a homepage or something where I could explore this museum. So, and that's just a curiosity that I had when I was about 14, 15 years old. So each one of us, we can find something that we're really curious about. And her challenge is to take a week, at least a week, and just dive into that one thing and learn everything that you can about it. Another thing I've sometimes thought of is growing bonsai trees because outdoor gardening is really sort of I live in an apartment building. There is a garden out there, but it's really it's hard to reach. And I'm getting to the point where I have so many other interests, I can't do the big gardening thing.
Yes.
And my big passion is like yours is more for gardening. Mine is right behind me. It's all my art supplies and that kind of thing. So I have often thought of maybe finding out more about growing a bonsai tree. Or growing more plants in my window or exploring, all right, so what do I need I have an African violet and I keep thinking, oh, I should find out how to repot it because I know it's outgrown, it's little tiny. It's actually survived for 3 years and it blooms. And somebody just brought it to me from the grocery store. So the whole idea is to find things that you're curious about because those could turn into passions. Like one of my passions is taking watercolor lessons. Another one is I love to knit and I'm always finding different kinds of yarn. I love to make socks because They're small, they're portable. I can stick them in my purse a little because they're, just the needles and one little sock. And wherever it might be boring, I can take my knitting.
I love it.
Um,
I
but
love it.
finding different things and just start with, if you've never had a big hobby or anything like that, just start with things that you've been curious about and that might lead you to more information. It might lead you to discovering a group of people who's also interested in it. It might lead you to making connections with some new friends. It might lead you to traveling to find out more about whatever this curiosity is. But start at that little point. You don't have to suddenly go and enroll in university or take a big, huge course. Start with something little and something that you're genuinely curious about. And that is a great way to start. So that is my take on growing. Have a curiosity goal. Linda, do you want to talk about connection?
Okay, I'll talk about connections, which I think sometimes can be a little bit of a challenge when you've spent a lot of time at a job or you have had to take time away because maybe you've had a sick spouse and now all of a sudden your life has changed. And you've lost some of those connections, or maybe some of those connections have moved away. And so now, who are you going to connect with? And I will be honest and say that not all people are friendly. And sometimes it's really hard to think that now we're going to try to make a connection and then people are not very friendly. I'm just going to be honest. Polly and I have we've both been in marketing. So we are not that shy that we won't come up and say hello to you and have a conversation, even if we don't know you. But that's not really the type of connection we're really talking about here. We're talking about perhaps when you have that list of curiosities, that then you find those groups that are doing like-minded activities, and then you make that connection socially. And then asking yourself too, the next thing, well, what can I bring to this group now that I kind of like this group? So I am in Florida right now, visiting my daughter, and they had this really wonderful little bookshop called Story and Song. And of course, the little ones can come in and have a story read to them, but older adults can come in, and anybody who's interested, they're going to have a concert one evening at this bookstore. Obviously, there's books there and there's a cafe there, but Polly mentioned knitting. So I am not a knitter. I've never been good at it. I think I would like to know, but this Story and Song Cafe bookshop is offering a 4-week class in knitting. So maybe Polly struck a chord with you and you said, you know what? It's so good for my hands to keep them moving. I think knitting is good. So now this place is offering a 4-week class in knitting. And so that could be a connecting point. Some folks,
Yeah, taking classes is just a great way
or maybe it's a
because,
golf,
yeah,
maybe that's another place where
yeah.
you can connect. Maybe you love animals and you want to connect with those who do, and or maybe you have a dog that you have just recently purchased and you would like to have them trained to be a therapy dog. I mean, the possibilities are truly endless. And
And I was just thinking, I don't know if we've ever mentioned this before, but I think even on Facebook, they have these meetup groups for all kinds of things. We probably should go and investigate that and share that with people too, because I bet you there's all kinds of groups on meetups for
yes,
all kinds of
Facebook
interests.
groups and
Yeah.
things like that. Yes, I had been on a ferry boat taking me from one place to another, and I saw a lady come on by herself, and then another lady came on by herself. Just walked on. We were in our cars, and she had her camera. So I said, "Hey, would you like me to take your picture?" And And I said, "Are you with this lady?" And she said, "No, I'm not with her, but we're going to the same place. It's called a meetup group, and we are interested in photography. And we are going to meet. We're all been designated that we're going to meet at this landmark at 10 a.m. on Saturday, the fourth Saturday of the month. And anybody who wants to do it goes and then is there with somebody who likes to do photography." And I thought, what a great way to connect
Yeah, I think that's great.
when you're on your own, or
Yeah,
that's your interest point. And you'd be
right.
surprised the amount of groups and the amount of interest that people do have. And I think that's stimulating when it comes to
Oh, absolutely.
connections.
And the nice thing about groups is it's not like you're walking into a group of, how I say, you're not walking into a wall of strangers all talking among themselves. You're walking into a group of people who have the same interest. So you don't have to make up conversation like you would if you walked into a room full of people that you've never met before. You've got that one common interest. Oh, you've got, oh, what kind of camera do you have? Or how, how do you use your phone? Or, gee, tell me about, you've got a SLR camera. You know, there's all kinds of things because you have a common interest. So I think that's a
Absolutely.
great one.
Yes. So there's lots of ways to connect when you actually intentionally spend some time looking. And it's about, as Carrie said, it revolves around you, what you are interested in, what you love, what you're good at,
Right.
and that you find a
Absolutely.
joy and satisfaction in.
Absolutely. So then the next skill that she talks about is, of course, the ability to adapt, or what I would say, flexibility. Flexibility and a sense of humor in my book.
She's right.
Probably is one of the best ways to deal with all the changes that are taking place because
Yes.
there's going to be changes that are taking place. I know for myself, one of the changes that has taken place is I have, and I've mentioned this probably in other sessions that we've done, but I have strange hands. They
Still looks
they have
strange, Polly.
Dupuytren's contraction and or contracture, and I've had multiple surgeries on my hands. I can type on my computer, but lots of typos. Thank God, Gmail or Google or whoever uh, goes in and at least marks things so I know if I've had a typo. But I've also learned to use voice typing now. So now I often will dictate something and then go back in and correct it because, of course, it hears things, how would I say, it translates words into what it thinks it hears sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes they're a little strange,
Well, here and
a
here,
little,
like HEAR or HERE.
yeah,
I have the same.
exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
Another example is my eyesight isn't perfect. I had cataract surgery. I have some macular degeneration going on. And at first I was really, when I first was told that, I really sort of, I don't know, it did bother me because I remember my mother having it, although it never really, I never saw her had to have to deal with any extreme situations from it. But I have been learning to, for instance, I've got a Surface computer instead of a regular one. It has a touch screen, and if I need to look at something larger in order to see it really clearly, because there's so many things nowadays that are in like 10-point or 11-point type. I can just use my hand and make the screen bigger so that I can look at the teeny. And isn't it interesting that whenever you get a new piece of, like a new mouse
Hmm.
or a new phone, it comes in this beautiful box, and I swear to God, the typeface on the little pamphlet that comes in is in 0.555
Yes. So don't
type.
think you're going blind. It's just that the type is small.
Yeah.
Yes, I've
And
been there.
on my desk now, I think I mentioned this in another one of our, but I just keep a big old magnifying glass. If I need it, I need it.
Yes.
But I just, that's all part of adapting or adopting to things. There's so many things that you can do. We just have to be willing to find different ways to do them. Like I used to really garden. I loved rose bushes especially. Well, Maybe I'll learn to grow bonsai, or maybe I'll just have a kitchen window full of beautiful plants. There's always a different way to do something.
A
I love to
workaround.
travel.
Yeah, workaround. Yeah.
Yeah, a different workaround. I love to travel. I've gone to France this year. I've gone to New York a couple of times. I'm going to go up to Minnesota at the end of this month. I'm going down to forget where. Enough, well, anyway, lots of travel. I've just learned when you go to an airport, it's not getting into the airport that's a problem. It's that you never know how far away the gate is going to be. And let me tell you, if you go to New York and you go to LaGuardia Airport, or you go to the airport in Atlanta, you might be walking a couple miles.
Yes. Yes.
So I have just learned. I give up my pride. I command a wheelchair assistance. I have two hip replacements. I'm going to zip around that airport. I always give a little tip to the person who's helping me, and I always show them a lot of appreciation because they're walking all day long. You'd think they'd be skinny as rails because they
Yes.
so much
Yeah.
exercise.
Right.
But I have had friends who literally have said, "Oh, I don't want, it's I can't use a wheelchair. It'll make me look old."
It's just a number, people. But this is what Polly told me. She's laughing so hard. She can't talk, but this is what she told me. She told me, she said, "You're always going to get to your gate on time and you're going to get off the plane first." So, hey, what's to argue with about that? And there's really travel companies that specialize in senior travel. So
Oh yeah.
this is good. If you love it, do it and just figure out what a workaround is. Polly has told me this before, and she's told us before. Your brain wants something to problem solve. But guess what? We're really good at telling ourselves no as well. That we've got the negative
Oh
bias.
yeah. We become pitiful Pearl.
Oh,
Pitiful
pitiful
Pearl says,
girl.
"Oh, it's going to be too hard.
Yeah.
Oh, if I can't do it the old way."
Yeah. Well, my husband's birthday's in January. So I thought to myself, he loves to play golf. That's his thing. But where are you going to play in January? Oh, plus I had a foot issue, so I could not. I didn't even know if I'd be able to play with him, but I wanted him to enjoy his day. So guess what? I found out that it's a new franchise, newish, but there are other people that have jumped on board and created these indoor golf environments where you choose the golf course that you want to play on. Maybe one that you can't afford to play financially, but you can choose it. And then there's a golf simulator. And the day we went, it was so cold. All right, so we come in with our golf bags, and we kind of feel foolish bringing our golf bags into this indoor place. But all the people practically knocked me out with their golf bags on the way out because they had just finished league play. They do it every week. So if you love golf, but you
That
can't do the
sounds so
18,
cool.
and I'm telling you, you put your ball on the tee. So my first thing, if you don't play golf, you always tee up your first shot. Use your driver, and then it keeps score for you. It tells you how far you're away, and that takes some getting used to. But I'm just saying, instead of saying no, I can't do that anymore, and if I say, oh well, they have leagues, and then you can do it, what would be stopping you from that point?
There
Right?
are so many innovative entertainment things nowadays. My son-in-law had a birthday recently, and they booked a room. There is a specialty place that has private rooms for what is it when you're singing along?
Oh, karaoke.
But it's a private room, so it's just you and your friends.
Okay.
And they said they practically closed the place down. It was one of the best birthday parties they ever had. So there's just so many interesting and new things. You just have to sort of keep your ear to the ground.
Yes, yes, but what, like Polly said, once you start looking, then Google or the search engines start sending you things because I was looking for things to do near me, and now events near you pops up every day. and especially in the weekend when I'm looking for something. But it was cool because I found a car show that I wouldn't have known about. And I said, I thought, oh, if we don't get a chance to do this, maybe we can do this. So, you don't have to sit at home and be pitiful Pearl. We can find things that maybe I would feel socially uncomfortable doing, but when I'm with people who also enjoy doing, and there's going to be a natural conversation, but it makes it a little easier. But I do want to share, and I think I've shared this before, is that my mother had a dear friend, and he knew how to have conversations, and he knew what people like to talk about. So he might talk to me about my podcast, and he might talk to Polly about her tiny habits. And you know why he did that? Is because he wanted to draw out the other person. So he was giving to them an opening to talk about what they really like to talk about. And then he was just learning. And you know what? You felt like $1 million because he wrote it on an index card. Linda has a podcast. Ask her how it's doing. And then when he knew he was going to come see my mom and hang out, he'd say, how's that podcast doing? And of course,
Well, that's really interesting.
I'm waiting for somebody to ask. Uh,
Somebody once said to me also, and I think this is a great thing when it comes to meeting new people, stop being a guest, start being a host. So when you do go to places, look for the person who's lonely, look for the person who's by themselves, and be the host and go up to them and welcome them instead of waiting around for somebody to come to you. And I know that's not easy, but it is a suggestion. It is one option that we can play with.
It's so much easier than walking into a group of unknown people who are already having a conversation. That to
Yeah.
me is much easier than doing the other.
Yeah.
That really helps. So Gary and I were new marrieds, and we had an older neighbor. And our house was built in the 40s, and it had lead pipes. And we got a trickle of water. It took like 40 minutes for the bathtub to fill up. Well, our neighbor was really good at home repairs. Now you wouldn't know it, that wasn't his job, but he just had done those things over the years. So this one of Dr. Burnright's tenants is also like you said, stop being a guest and start being a host and giving to others. What can you give to others when you get in that conversation?
Yeah, that's her fourth.
Yeah. What can you bring to the table? And so over the fence, oh, it's taking 45 minutes for our bathtub to fill up. Oh man, I know how to change pipes. Husband says, I don't know how to do that. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Well, okay. Well, do you want some help? Well, yeah, but can you help me get started? So from there, in 2 days, so my husband was told exactly what to purchase. And then they started on the first pipe. And guess what? We got all new copper plumbing in our house. And guess who knows how to do copper plumbing? I know because I watched, and at some point I had to help. But I'm just saying, this is what he gave to us. This is what he brought to the table. He was good at it. He offered it, and it was a blessing to us to get what he had to offer. And I think many times we, and myself included, tend to hang back. Nobody's asked me to do that. But honestly, that's how I came up with my podcast is what can I give to others in this season of life? And 20 years of helping folks learn how to age in place and navigate healthcare, that's a big deal. A lot of people don't know how to do that. We didn't know how to do the plumbing, but I know how to do this. And this is my gift. And and Polly just said it already earlier, your business, thriveafter65.com is the,
That's what it's all about.
yes.
I had a really interesting experience last Friday. A friend of mine invited me to go down to a meeting in the city of St. Louis, and it was it was a get together for women and it was about finding your voice and finding your, it was like a mini workshop. It was given at this place called the Filament, which is an amazing place. And most of the women, I would say, were in their 30s to 50s, probably. And I had gone to another meeting earlier, maybe a couple of months ago, and I came away thinking, well, I don't know, here I am, I'm in my 80s, and they're all worried
I
about their,
know.
the workplace issues and feminism and all the things that, hey, I've been there, I've done that. I mean,
Yes, yes, you had to
and
navigate that.
but I went back with more of an open mind this time, just because I thought I'm going to give it another shot. And I all of a sudden had this realization, because we were talking at one point about women in the workplace and the challenges that women faced. And of course, they're
Mhm.
nothing now like they were back in the 1970s and 80s. It's such a different world.
Yes.
But I mean, I can remember actually being hauled aside by my sales manager and him literally saying to me, because I couldn't make it to a promotion at a bar on a Saturday, because I was taking my daughter's books to University of Kansas. Um, she had left some books behind. She really needed them to start her classes. And my boss called me in on Monday morning and said, well, seems to me you need to choose between your family and your job.
Yeah,
Literally
right.
said that. I got out a pen and paper and said, would you repeat that, please?
Oh boy.
He got up and left. Oh, it was such a great story. But
Oh
I
yes.
realized, my age and experience and having gone through those things is I can share stories, and I have a perspective that these young women don't have. And I
Exactly.
realized, I should go to these meetings because I have a lot to give.
You have a lot
And
to receive
yes,
because we need all generations because we're going to learn something that we can use. Like,
exactly.
for
And of
example,
course,
AI, Polly and I are really learning how to use that. So these young girls now already
oh
know
yeah,
that. So they're helping
yeah,
us out. And then
yeah,
Polly, with her perspective, can help them.
yes. So, it was, but what I want to point out is that at first I was resistant,
Hmm. And
which I think most of us would be. We say, all these young people, I don't have anything in common with them. They
right.
don't need me, and so on and so forth. But when you really stop and think of it, that yes, you do. You bring a unique uh, experience, a unique perspective,
Hmm.
and you have a unique story to tell, and that is something that is that's important. And it is something to contribute. So for me, it
Yes.
really was a lesson, because I did feel myself sort of resisting and thinking, oh, it's all these young girls. And I've been there, done that. I've done all this stuff. The whole business about, childcare and values and your passion for life. It was just important. I gave myself, actually,
Oh, yes.
where
Here
are
we
they?
go.
I gave myself some gold stars in my journal for going back the second time and having that realization
Yes.
that, it's not just about me, it's what I can give to others, and stop looking around saying, well, I don't have anything in common with anybody.
The biggest cure I have heard is for depression is to give to somebody else because it takes the focus off yourself. But I'm going to share one quick story before we end today.
Okay.
And I was sent this story, and I'm not going to give you all the details. I'll let you look it up. Look up for the story about the nuns that were living in a long-term care community. They had been sent from their convent because they were older and needed a lot of extra care that the convent didn't feel like they could provide. So they sent them to a long-term care community, and they were so miserable. They weren't growing, they weren't learning, they weren't giving to others, they were not good takers, and they had it up to here. And guess what? They broke out of there and they left and they went back to their convent. And they said they couldn't take it anymore. And guess the part of the story is that former students are helping them get the groceries they need and the care that they deserve. And they're so much happier. So look up that story
So
because,
in other words, they went back to their original community because they felt more like they were part of things
yes, and that,
and they missed.
yeah, sitting on a shelf, being a consumer and not a giver was not in their nature ever. And
Oh, in other
so,
words, they were when they were in the long-term care facility, people were just taking care of them and they weren't used to that. They wanted to
yes,
be out giving and helping. So
yes,
in their own way, they went back to and they gave back in the ways that they could.
yeah. So this has just happened. It's a really new story, but I just think it has relevance for you and I and the people that listen to us to chart the course. And Polly and I have a lot to offer as Polly is the queen of tiny habits that get us started. And then I love resources and aging in place is a thing. Not
Right.
everybody's going to go to a retirement community, but those social connections are really important. Having a
Oh,
passion and a
especially if
mission.
you decide to age in place.
Yes, exactly, because it's really important to be socially connected. But do you have
Right.
anything else today, Polly, for our listeners? Otherwise, we need to cut this.
Yeah, I know we have a lot to say on these subjects. Just that, aim for a life well lived. And the joy span thing is all about expanding your horizons, really.
Mhm.
um, to go out of your way, look for opportunities to grow, look for opportunities to give, look for opportunities to connect with people, look for ways to adapt and different ways of doing things. And you will definitely live a life that is more fulfilling. And I guess the closing thought, the closing tiny habit I would say would be to, as soon as your feet hit the floor, say to yourself, today is going to be a great day because that
Mhm.
will set the tone.
Absolutely. All right, my friends, you heard it from Polly, and she has the longevity to tell us what's what. So please enjoy this video, share it with others. We appreciate you spending time with us. Have a great month, friends.
And have a great, I'm blubbing up here. Have a great month. It was great to visit with you down in Florida
Oh, it was
today.
a
And
pleasure.
certainly be sure to, if you want to follow up with Linda some more, you can go to Senior Support Strategies. That's her website. And she has a podcast that's called Aging in Place Strategies and Answers. And you can always contact her there. And then my website is simply called Thrive with a dash after 65.com.
Thanks, friends. Bye.